Good morning. This is the City Planning Commission public meeting held at NYC City Planning Commission hearing room, Lower Concourse, 120 Broadway. Today is Wednesday, January 30th, 2019. As a courtesy during the proceedings, we ask that you please turn off all cell phones and electronic devices. All speakers should fill out a speaker's card. In addition, we ask that those providing testimony please identify yourself, limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and speak clearly into the microphone. I will now call the roll. Chair Lago.
Here.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Here.
Commissioner Capelli.
Here.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Here.
Commissioner De La Use.
Here.
Commissioner Dweck.
Here.
Commissioner Edie.
Here.
Commissioner Knight.
Here. Commissioner
Commissioner Levin.
Here.
Commissioner Marin.
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz. Commissioner Rampachet.
Here.
A quorum is present. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, January 9th, 2019.
On the minutes, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved.
Scheduling. On calendar numbers 1 through 12, we have resolutions for adoption. Scheduling Wednesday, February 13, 2019 for a public hearing to be held at NYC City Planning Commission hearing room, Lower Concourse, 120 Broadway.
On the resolutions, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The resolutions are adopted.
The next part of the calendar is the report section on page 16. Borough of the Bronx, calendar numbers 13 and 14. Calendar number 13, CD 11, C180261ZMX. Calendar number 14, N180262ZRX. In the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning the Williams Bridge Road rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 13 and 14, Chair Lago.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner De La Use.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight. Yes. Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 13 and 14. Borough of the Bronx, calendar numbers 15 and 16. Calendar number 15, CD1, C190143ZMX. Calendar number 16, N190144ZRX. In the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning the B10s 6. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 15 and 16, Chair Lago.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner De La Use.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 15 and 16. Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 17, CD9, C180404 PCM. In the matter of an application for the site selection and acquisition of property concerning the Frank White Memorial Garden. For a favorable report on calendar number 17, Chair Lago.
Before casting my vote, I just want once again to have the record reflect our thanks to the members of the public who, on a wholly uncontroversial application, nonetheless took the time to come and share with us just what a special place this is. And I vote yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner De La Use.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 17. Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 18, CD4, N190175ZAM. In the matter of an application for the grant of an authorization concerning the Block 4 contribution in kind, Lot 17, for adoption on calendar number 18. Chair Lago.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Recused.
Commissioner De La Use.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 18. Borough of Queens, calendar numbers 19 and 20. Calendar number 19, CD6, C180447ZMQ. Calendar number 20, N180448ZRQ. In the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning the former Parkway Hospital rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 19 and 20. Chair Lago.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner De La Use.
I'm going to vote yes, and I appreciate that the applicant modified the application to expand the MIH options, and I hope that the council will work with the applicant to ensure that we achieve real affordability for the seniors for this project. With that, I vote yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 19 and 20. Borough of Queens, calendar number 21, CD7, C190095ZSQ, in the matter of an application for the grant of a special permit concerning 134-01 20th Avenue. For a favorable report on calendar number 21, Chair Lago,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles,
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli,
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Deleuze,
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck,
Yes.
Commissioner Edie,
Yes.
Commissioner Knight,
Yes.
Commissioner Levin,
Yes.
Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet. A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 21. The next part of the calendar is a public hearing section on page 27. Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 22, CD12, N190233HKM. A public hearing in the matter of a communication concerning the landmark designation of the Park Terrace West Historic District.
No one has signed up to speak on this item, but if anyone were interested, now would be the time. Okay, the world's quickest public hearing is closed.
Excuse me, is that Park Terrace West in Manhattan, Inwood?
Yes.
Yes.
So do you want to speak?
I'm from that area.
You've got some beautiful homes in that area.
Okay.
Boy.
Okay. Borough of the Bronx, calendar numbers 23, 24, and 25. Calendar number 23, CD11, C170438ZMX. Calendar number 24, N170439ZRX. Calendar number 25, C170353MMX. A public hearing in the matter of applications for a zoning map, city map, and zoning text amendments concerning the Blondale Commons.
We are going to have a 10-minute team presentation by Eric Palatnik, Craig Livingston, and Emmanuel Demore.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. Thank you very much for allowing us to present to you this morning. My name is Eric Palatnik. I presented before, and we have our project team with us. And I know you had a quick hearing a few minutes ago. I have a feeling this one will make up for the time you just picked up a few seconds ago. We're excited to bring this application for rezoning on Blondell Avenue. It's just off of Westchester Square in the Bronx, in a well-served mass transit area right off of public highways on a block that has traditionally been severely underutilized, with a primary concentration of automotive service uses, body shops, and things of that, with speckled and peppered with some residential uses on the block. It is a very calm and quiet block in the evenings and on the weekends when the body shops are not in play, and during the day it is very active with the body shops that line their cars on the street as they do repairs. We have brought this application to request a rezoning for a portion of the block, which I will click to the zoning map as I'm talking to show you right here, and it's depicted on the right-hand side, to tailor the rezoning to encompass a well-rationed land use plan that picks up on the R6 zoning districts that surround the property on all sides, with the exception of the M11 that we're smack in the middle of. We're smack in the middle of an M11 probably because in the 60s when it was mapped, we're up against the rail yards. Nobody ever lived anywhere near trains. This idea of mass transit-oriented housing did not exist, and there was no idea or comprehension that you could actually build in manufacturing areas because the environmental technology wasn't there. All of that is gone now. It's all gone upside down, and of course we have the ability to build next to rail yards, and we have the ability to remediate manufacturing zone properties, and we're next to the Westchester Square bid, which is hoping to be and is always a thriving commercial area. I know there's a lot of questions at the review session about the opposition, and there was some opposition at the community board level. We were supported at the community board 11 at the land use committee. We lost at the full board, and then we were asked to go to community board 10, which borders us on the other side to the left. If you're looking at the zoning maps to the left of Blondell is community board 10, where we went to a public hearing there. People were upset with the development, I think primarily because it's a new development in an area that hasn't seen any new development recently. It's new. There are new people going to be coming in. This has been a quiet block that people have had pretty much to themselves for a long time. I lived on a similar block on 5th Street in Long Island City 10 years ago, right off of 49th Avenue. It was beautiful. At night, the body shop was gone. We had the whole place to ourselves, and I understand their concern. But we will be building a building that's fully affordable. It'll have 228 apartments in it. It'll be a nice spectrum of family-sized units down to studios. It'll be in the HPD Mix and Match program with developers here today, and he's going to speak to you about it. It's been well designed. I'm going to click over to show you the design right here so you can see what it's going to look like, the building. It's a beautiful building. It'll be 9 stories at its peak. It'll be 7 stories where you see the setbacks and the dormers interplay. It'll have ground floor commercial of about 19,000 square feet, which we were asked to turn into a charter school at the community board, which we'd be happy to do, and we're making efforts to try to do that. It has 225 accessory spaces at the cellar, which is about 175 more spaces than we need. I know there was a question yesterday, why do we have so many parking spaces? That's been done. It started off, and the plan first started 10 years ago, when Mayor Bloomberg at the time had initiated congestion pricing. That was an idea that came into play. And when we met with the bid said, forget about congestion pricing. There's nowhere for people in Westchester Square to park. It's a big problem. Westchester Square doesn't have enough places to park. We can't support the businesses that are there. Can you keep the extra parking now that the project is going forward and congestion pricing is not in play? And can you provide it some deal that they'll make? There'll be a fee for it, we don't know, but to accommodate the people that have businesses in Westchester Square. So the idea would be that if I went in and I bought something in Westchester Square, I'd show my receipt when I go to the garage, and there'd be some kind of arrangement made with everybody so there could be parking for the commercial businesses. That's the idea. We don't think it's going to draw more traffic to the area. I know there was a concern about traffic. We don't think that's going to be an issue because we think that people are already coming to Westchester Square already and are driving around for blocks and blocks and blocks, circling for parking spaces. So the people that are going to be coming to this are the people that are already coming to Westchester Square, and now they don't have to circle. So I think we're going to reduce our vehicular trips tremendously. The next really weird part about this application, before I let Emmanuel talk about design, I'll go to the street system. We are in a funky spot with the street system, and that is a zoning term. It is very funky. We have a great map here that shows you everything that's going on. In addition to the rezoning, we're asking to demap Fink, which is the area in the middle of the map there that says area of street to be demapped. That's Fink Avenue. That doesn't exist. It's a paper street. There's actually a building that's being utilized as a church, the red one, who I spoke to the gentleman who owns it at the Community Board 10 meeting, and that sits in the bed of Fink, so he'd be happy if we demapped it. So we're asking to demap it. That's not the funky part. That's your normal everyday street system. What's funky is Grant and Cooper, which is to the right of Fink, which is a building that's just the street that's in the area at the bottom where it says rezoning area. The A and the G of rezoning are in the bed of Cooper, and the building that's the brick building is Grant, the brick one where the white line sort of runs through. That cross-shaped section of street system there was originally owned by Westchester County, and then 100 years ago, before we were all around, it was transferred to New York County, and whoever was in charge of that didn't do a good job of keeping any track of the records. So they've entirely disappeared. So when you go down there now, it is a street. If you took my wife there, she'd think it was a street because she has no interest in land use, other than my stories. But it looks like a street, but it's not a street. We don't know how any of the buildings on the street were, in fact, built. I have no idea. Nobody knows who owns what. Everybody is in complete confusion about it. We'd be happy to accommodate. There was some requests at the borough president that we put an entrance to our parking garage, which is proposed to be on Blondell, in the back there to bring it off the street system. And we said we'd be happy to do that, but there is no street system for us to legally tack onto in the back. So we leave that door open to a future discussion. I think I've hit most of the salient points of the application without going through all the plans. Emmanuel is here. He's the project architect. He can take you through the plans, and I'd be happy to answer any questions when you're done.
Thank you. Good morning, Emmanuel Diamor from Afghan Architects. So Eric was mentioning before, the proposed rezone will facilitate the construction of 189,000 square feet of residential, approximately 20,000 square feet of commercial, 2,000 square feet of community facility. So because of the shape of the lot, it's very deep. We intended to provide 225 parking spaces in the cellar as an attended facility. On the first floor, we have, the parking entrance. On Blondell, the 20,000 square foot commercial space and 10 apartments with private outdoor recreation areas, as well as outdoor recreation areas for the whole building. And as we move to the second floor, we find approximately between the second and third floor, 5,600 square feet of indoor recreation areas with approximately 10,000 square feet of outdoor recreation areas between private and public for the building tenants. From the fourth floor up, it's purely all residential units, 228. The building is family-oriented, so we have about 43% of the units between 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. The flood elevation, it's at elevation 13, but our first floor is already at elevation 20, so there is no flood resiliency, and anything below the first floor, it's all used for storage. And then all mechanical rooms are going to be located, some of them on the first floor and then on the upper floors. The building material, it's designed to fit within the context and have, because of the visibility 360 degrees, we try to provide a very durable and material that will age really well in these conditions. And then we also provided enterprise green communities and active design living. We have, because of the limited time, I think we could jump to Craig Livingston to explain more about the percentage for financing.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Commission. My name is Craig Livingston. I'm a member of the applicant, Exact Capital, and we're very proud of this project here at Blondell Commons that we endeavor to bring to the Westchester Square community. I just want to speak briefly about some of the feedback we've heard from both community boards and steps we've taken to mitigate some of that feedback and their concerns. Primarily, you heard Eric talk about traffic and parking. So the feedback from the bid was that they really need more parking in the Westchester Square area to support the commercial corridor, which is just 1 block off of Blondell Avenue. And we're happy that we're providing 225 spaces in an intended fashion to really help support the businesses in the area. The second item is environmental contamination. We have a site here that rests in a M1 zone, which had historical uses, auto body shops, paint booths, et cetera. So we've taken the steps of entering this site into the New York State Brownfield Cleanup Program. We will remediate it under the supervision of DEC, and our aim is to get to a track 1, which is the cleanest level of remediation for residential occupancy.
Thank you.
Do I get more?
Okay. Now, at this point, we'll turn it over to questions from the Commission. Commissioner Delos.
I'll just pick right up where you left off there with the track 1 with the DEC. So it's the voluntary cleanup program,
yes,
which will also involve the tax credits. So that just making sure that everybody understands that has its own. Can you talk a little bit about that public review process?
Right.
I think that might help address some of the concerns that the community may have. And then the other questions I have are some of the pieces in the community board's questions or vote about concerns that this would become homeless housing and also school impacts. So if you could speak to those, because I'm sure we're going to be hearing more about that later.
Thank you for your questions. So regarding the voluntary cleanup that we're doing, yes, we've entered into the New York State Brownfield Cleanup Program. We're working on the remedial action work plan right now that is also reviewed and approved by DEC. The process is an elongated process similar to what we go through with a ULURP, where there's an opportunity for public comment. Our plans in the remedial action work plan is published. There's a review period where members of the community get to opine on it. Whatever their feelings may be about it. But the fact is we've identified the contaminants. We are very close to finalizing that plan. It will be available. And I think I don't remember the exact time frames, but it's like 60 or 90 days or 120 days. There's a nice long period. And it's also put into deposit into public areas like libraries and where folks can actually go review the plan themselves. So we're happy to do that. We've done that successfully, by the way, in other brownfield programs in the Bronx, and we were very happy to achieve a track 1 in our 1778 Southern Boulevard project that we also did in the Brownfield field cleanup program. And a point of pride for us is we received a Big Apple Brownfield Award for that level of cleanup in an affordable housing project. With respect to the school impact, well, we got a negative deck. However, members of the community do feel like the school's already overcrowded. And our compromise was, well, listen, we were very happy to work with both community boards 10 and 11 to provide feedback and guidance about retail uses that they feel are appropriate for the neighborhood. And we've offered to, put a charter school or an annex for a public school. We're very sensitive to developing in a manner in which we can support the community's aspirations for their neighborhood. And the door's open. That conversation will be ongoing. We're happy to continue it. And so if there is a school use that we could fit into our 20,000 square foot envelope, we would happily do it. And your third question was?
About the concern about the fear that this would become homeless housing.
Oh, well, no, this is not a shelter. And I think there has been some shelters in the community and people are sensitive to that. This is an affordable housing building done with, in conjunction with HPD and HDC. We do have a supportive component in the project, which goes with MIH. It's, I think, 10%, but there's some discussion within the city council, maybe requiring it to be 15%, but we have to follow the HPD guidelines and that are stated in their term sheets and how they allocate capital. But this is not a shelter by no means. This is family housing. Thank you.
Other questions? Vice Chair Knuckles.
Mr. Livingston, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Could you just elaborate on the funding, not the funding level, the AMI level that you
Sure.
arrived at, option 2 versus option 1, and how that comports with the neighborhood AMI of $44,500?
Okay, so we've done this is a mix and match, which is a mixed income affordable housing project. So our current proposal, and this is before we've fully vetted it out with the agencies because we don't have a project yet to bring that we can complete negotiations with HPD, but we have a range of AMIs from 30% AMI to 120% AMI at the top end. It's our feeling that HPD will probably ask us to reduce the top end closer to 100% AMI, but I think we're basically like 32% at that top level, whatever it will end up being. Then we have 7% at 90% AMI. And then we have like 30% at 60, and then there's another tranche in between, which is, I'm sorry, I'm just, okay.
According to our sheet, it says 69 units at 30, 69 at 60, 17 at 90, and 73 at 120.
Right, so thank you. This is, let me rely on this. The caveat I would say is that top level of 120 will probably most likely come down. But Commissioner Knuckles, I would say that, Westchester Square has been a working class, middle class home ownership neighborhood. So we were sensitive to an income mix that provides capacity for families, particularly new and young families in need of affordable housing, but also supports the existing makeup of the community.
Thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Deleuze.
I'm just wondering, obviously, the provision of 225 parking spaces is very, very significant. Can you talk a little bit more about how you arrived at that number and whether or not, quite honestly, the AMI mix and match choice was partly to help the cost of
Actually,
the cost of that?
Thank you again for your question. With affordable housing, I think there's a certain threshold. There's 80% AMI. There's a 80% and below requires no parking. So if you look at our unit mix, you'll see that our parking requirement is much lower than what we're doing. And we're doing this, the parking is not, it's done strictly for the purpose of supporting the business community's aspirations. And in a city where small businesses are under pressure, and when their main complaint is patronage is dropping because people cannot come into the community, they can't park, even though there is a subway station just like literally right there a block away. The main complaint is they're not getting patronage because people can't park. And if you've ever been to Westchester Square, the parking is abysmal. There is no parking. So this was our reaction to a sensitive point from the business community. We think that within the residents, particularly the affordable and 80% AMI and below, there's been a lot of considerations about this factored in over years by HPD, and there's a parking requirement that I think the calculus is that the lower income people sometimes are not going to have cars, and so there's not a requirement to do it. But in any event, we are doing this as a means to satisfy an aspiration of the community.
Other questions from the commission?
Thank you.
And I will note that, as Mr. Palatnik said, I had the good fortune yesterday to drive around the site, and it does exactly meet the zoning resolution's definition of a funky site. I would appreciate your addressing one of the recommendations that the borough president had made with respect to the entry off of Westchester. I was struck by the fact that one of the stanchions upholding the elevated subway line lies in the bed of what is hard to characterize as a street, but as this alley. And if you had an image, I think it would be
I just
helpful
have
to
the
speak to that.
aerial that's able to show you what the area you're talking about. But unfortunately, I don't have an actual image. But it is where the, coming to the bottom of the map, where the letter A is of the word area, just in front of the train tracks there. What Madam Chair is speaking to is there's a stanchion from the elevated rail. That's an elevated rail that you're looking at. I don't know how to address that. The idea that I understand has been discussed with, by the way, your Bronx office has been fantastic with this application and with this given issue. And some of the creative ideas that have been tossed around have been sitting down at Department of Transportation to get their input to address that pole. That's one of the biggest, assuming we can get Department of Transportation to create some sort of easement for us, access to formally recognize the street in some way, shape, or form. That pole is the biggest physical impediment to actually having people drive the street legally, because the street, it is in the middle of the roadway.
I know yesterday at rush hour, there were cars weaving around both sides of the pole, and it certainly struck me as quite unsafe.
Yes, it definitely is, and that's something that we've spoken a lot about with your borough office as well as with the borough president's office. So it's got everybody's attention. It's we like our original development plans, included that street system. It was only after everybody realized that there was no way to formally recognize it that we redesigned to not. So it's a much better design for us, obviously. We get more frontage on Blondell for retail use if we are able to move that entrance to the rear.
To the extent that you'd be able to provide the commission with a photograph, I think that would be very helpful in our deliberations.
We'd be happy to provide that for you.
Okay, if no more questions, I'll thank the applicant team.
Thank you.
And we will now turn to speakers in opposition, beginning with Sebastian Tertullian.
Good morning, Chair Lago and members of the commission. My name is Sebastian, and I work at 32BJ. We are here to share our concerns regarding the proposed development. We represent more than 80,000 property service workers in New York City, and we believe that developers should commit to providing good building service jobs. Blundell Equity LLC, an affiliate of Exact Capital, has reached out to us to discuss good jobs that pay the area standards at their site. We will keep you posted on our discussion. As of now, however, we are concerned that there is no commitment to strong standards for workers at the site. We estimate that this development will generate 4 building service jobs once completed, and we fully support the development of affordable housing, particularly development that is majority affordable. But we believe that taxpayer money should not be used to create low-road poverty jobs. For these reasons, we respectfully request that you urge the developer to commit to providing good building service jobs as part of your recommendation for this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Tertullian? Thank you. Our next speaker is Michelle Torioni, and she will be followed by Roxanne Delgado.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Torioni. I'm from the Pelham Bay Taxpayers Association. I'm in Community Board 10. I've heard what they've said. I've been to several meetings that these developers have come to, and I know how they say that the one key thing they said, and they use a lot of those words that they make you afraid to speak up. Affordable housing, low income, veterans, you know. We all want that, I get it. But I don't think this is the location for that. The area is not, doesn't have any kind of building such as that. It's right in the middle of a street that the ambulances go down there all the time to go to medical centers over there, Montefiore and everything. It's overcrowded already. I know I heard somebody say they were there already. It's abundance of traffic. I don't want to contingent on we need parking because they're going to open up the parking, but you have to pay market rate to park there. I tell you what, if I go there, I'm going to still drive around and not pay for parking. I'm going to park on the street if I can find the street parking. And also, they say it's going to be new people into the community. You know what the community needs? New streets, new roads, new design. They need new hospitals that are viable for the people that already live there. We don't need new people. I'm not saying down the future we don't want new people. I get it. But this is not the time, and I don't agree with the zoning and rezoning of this location. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Torioni?
No questions?
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
So our next speaker will be Roxanne Delgado, who will be followed by Dorothy Creni.
Hello, Commissioner. I'm a resident of Camille Bore 11. I am opposed to this application because first, as per your EAS report, the schools for pre-K to grade 5 level are over 140% over capacity. It states that no negative impact because there's estimated additional students from this rezoning will be less than 5%. Yet 140 over capacity is too high. You can't add more to this over capacity, excuse me. You are forcing parents to put schools in empty seats in underperforming schools or sending their kids far away from home. The second reason why is the ES report is not updated to include the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation November 2018 Phase 2 findings. The developer has not yet submitted any remediation plan. And for all we know, he's just going to bury up the brownfield contaminated site. So the EAS report only mentions the Phase 1 findings, but not Phase 2 findings. That should be included and rectified. Lastly, it is not affordable, as people keep saying affordable. It's a mixed match option 2, which means the median income for that census tract is it's about 45K. Over 60 to 70% of the units are above the median income, meaning that one studio will go over 1,500, and I think a 3-bedroom over 3,000. Nonetheless, it's not affordable for that area or for much of the Bronx, which is barely 35K. Lastly, in most of the public hearings that I attended, the developer was not for union labor, but now that he knows that the whole community and all the meetings were opposed to this for several reasons, now he's reaching out to the union, tossing them a little bone. If I was your rep, I would go to him right now and say, sign this now or I'm out the door. But your rep is saying, we're discussing. How long are you discuss this till he builds the building? He never supported union labor. He's not going to support it now. So if you really care about union labor, stay in with the community, because the community fought for union labor at the community board meetings. And this man has never used union labor. He's not going to use it today. He's not going to use it tomorrow. He's just selling you false goods, and your leader should be right now getting him sign that document today before you speak in favor of anything. Lastly, I like to say that I am not against development, because actually Covenant House has just moved to Westchester Square. I'm all for helping people because they will be helping the homeless youths in Westchester Square. I support that Covenant House because I actually used to work for DHS. Second, also the church nearby Westchester Avenue is proposing a 9-story Ella program building, which is great because it is affordable and it will help the community. Unfortunately, the school issue over capacity will still be an issue, but nonetheless, it's affordable. This proposal is not affordable. It's going to harm the community and it's not going to benefit society. I'm all for taking the burden if it helps people. This doesn't help people. It lines the pocket of the developer. And you're using taxpayers' money to build this development. I'm asking you, I'm begging you, because it seems like we have people who sold out the community. Westchester Square bid that doesn't represent the businesses on Westchester Avenue, but they made some deal with the developer for parking space. We don't need those parking spaces. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Delgado.
you.
Questions? Yes, Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You mentioned your concerns about school capacity, and the developer did mention some interest in putting a school at that location. What is your sort of position on that?
I read that report. First, he mentioned at the BP at the last minute because he realized that was the main issue in the community, because many parents have to send their kids long distance or put them in schools that are not satisfactory. But it still has the space. It's inadequate. It wouldn't address the number of schools in their building alone, much less the district. So they should build more schools first, honestly, in my opinion.
Okay, but a school facility at that location, if the space could accommodate it, would be preferable?
Yeah, of course we need a school, but it would not, there's not adequate space. I looked at it, it's too small. It wouldn't even accommodate their students, much less the community students.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Commissioner Deleuze.
Just kind of similarly in terms of your primary concern. So it seems to be the school seat issue and then the affordability issue. So would your recommendation be that rather than the mix and match? Sounds like you know a little bit about HPD programs.
I did a lot of research before I came to your office, to your public hearing.
Appreciate that. So you're really thinking that it would be better to have a greater percentage of units that are below 60% of area median income and affordable to the community?
Of course, Commissioner. If you're going to use taxpayers' money, if you're going to use your money, my money, their money, let's help people. Let's not, if you're going to burden the community, do it for the benefit of society. Like I said, I'm for Covenant House, housing, homeless shelter. I'm for the Ella program that's going to be built on Westchester Avenue by the church. I'm not against homeless people, against affordability, but this is not affordable, and it's going to displace long-term residents in Westchester Avenue. It's a majority of tenants, mostly of Latino descent like myself, who are paying preferential rent. If he's able to rent a one studio for $1,500, you know how market demand happens. It's a domino effect. All studios are going to go up from $1,100 to $1,500. It's going to displace all the people who could create more of a homeless effect. We have nowhere to go. I get displaced. There's no relocation plan for me.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Ms. Delgado.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dorothy Creni, who will be followed by Sandy Lusk.
Good morning. I'm Dorothy Creni from the Westchester Square Zariga Improvement Association organization. We're all in favor of affordable housing. My roots are blue collar. However, there are serious reasons that I object to this. And, you know, some of us have come knowing full well you're probably going to say yes to it, but we're going to fight the good fight. Both Bronx Community Board 10 and 11 turn this down. Both Borough President Diaz and Councilman Jonai are in favor, completely ignoring the community, the citizens that they're supposed to represent. My issues, environmental, it was only when we went to the Borough President's office that the developer admitted it was a brownfield. Some of our members actually researched and found it was a brownfield, and that question was brought up by us and not by the developer. We're told they're going to do remediation. They don't even mention the subway yards right in back. Chemicals coming out of the repair shop that's there, any metals that come out of there. The building will be right on those yards. Also, you would not put luxury housing there. So why affordable housing? What's good for luxury should be good for affordable. So that's another thing. Taxpayers' dollars. I'm so glad it was mentioned. My tax dollars, my neighborhood, my community for all my life. All of a sudden, we've got developers telling us what we should be doing. We stuck it out. We didn't run when the Bronx was burning. We stayed, we fought. I became a VISTA volunteer. I worked for the Commission on Human Rights to stabilize my hometown. So the project, we're told, is $180 million. How much in remediation? Another, according to their documents, it's in a FEMA Zone A high-risk flood zone. If you look at the geology, you've got Westchester Creek and the Hutchinson River underneath. Those old maps show a lot of interesting details. So Neighbors always tell developers, check the geology. When they do that first dig and water comes up, well, other developers found out that we know our neighborhood. Traffic issues also. I'm not going to go on about traffic. I just want to say one thing. The Westchester Square bid, as has been stated, there are viable commercial properties, businesses on Blondell already. Which priority does the city have, to keep people in jobs or get developers to make some money? There are viable businesses there, and I resent the term chop shops, because if you go down there, there are legitimate, this guy that owns a transmission place, his father used to be a transmission guy my father went to. So these are long-term places. I'm opposed.
Thank you. Vice Chair Knuckles.
Ma'am, thank you for your testimony. I'm just curious. You're opposed to this development. I think you've made that quite clear. What do you think should happen on the site? Do you think there should not be any development there? What do you?
They're making it out to be a dead zone. It's not. If you walk down that block, it's got viable businesses. They're taking an area, because I guess, I don't know if the body shop owner died, but they found an area where they could buy that property. You walk down the rest of Blondell, there are homeowners. There are 2 houses from the 1890s. People have been there for generations. There are viable bakery. There's a place that makes fences and very nice-looking buildings. So to say it's a chop shop area is bogus.
No, I'm quite familiar with the area.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, for that particular site, what would you envision? Do you think it should remain as it is?
Yes. Sorry, but yes. And especially environmentally, the traffic is horrible. If you took a ride around there yesterday, I wouldn't want to live there. It's just not conducive to a nice family living. There's no playgrounds. There's really no open space. We want people in affordable housing to consider it a home and not just a building that they go in and out of every day. And by the way, as a UFT retiree, I don't like charter schools. Sorry.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Ms. Krnicki. Our next speaker will be Sandy Lusk.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to address you. I'm Sandy Lusk from the Westchester Square Area Improvement Organization. Many of my main points have already been touched upon. There are just, I guess, a few things I'd like to say. The zone school for those kids who are going to be in that development is going to be PS 108 because it's on the, the District 11 side. All those kids would be bused. And my own kids went to PS 108. The idea of putting a charter school in the, small area there is really not feasible at all, and nor is it really fair to the parents of those kids, because it would be what, kindergarten? Maybe, I mean, kids need a real school, like K-5, K-8. Okay, so that was not a feasible solution, and it was something that kind of came up ad hoc throughout these hearings, of which I've been at almost every single one of them. The second thing is the bid, like people mentioned. I just want to mention to you, the bid does not represent the community, nor does it represent the businesses that are going to be affected on Blondell Avenue. So they had no representation in this, and indeed, most of them didn't even know this was going to happen. Number 3, the congestion, okay? 225 or 220 parking spaces in a garage with entry on Blondell Avenue. Now, those of you who have been there, and I'm happy to see that some of you have, you see the congestion, the narrowness of that one-way street. Now, I would like to put a hologram on your head. You are there. You are looking down this narrow one-way street. There's going to be 220 cars parking in a garage with entry on Blondell Avenue, adding 220 cars going back and forth off the street. The developer had also floated the idea of the businesses having the deliveries and the commercial part, the retail part, on Blondell Avenue as well. That's more congestion. And then I would like you to imagine about, 3 school buses going back and forth twice a day. So in addition, that strip to Eastchester Road is the avenue by which many emergency vehicles and ambulances go down to avoid the lights in the square, make the quick right up Eastchester Road to Einstein Hospital. So the idea of the congestion is a real one and is going to be a nightmare. Then I'd also like to mention that there are people, many people, who live on that street who have not been consulted at all. However, one is waiting to speak. He lives right on that street, and it's good for you to see what a resident would think about this. And the third is a question for you. Is this considered spot zoning? I mean, it seems to me from what I see here, it's only from Westchester to Pond. Is this true? The change. Is this true? Or does it go all the way to Eastchester, the entire street?
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Lusk. Questions? Thank you.
Could you answer my question?
I'm afraid at the public hearing, it is the commission who has questions of the public so that the public can have its voice be heard.
Okay, but we can reach out to you to get an answer.
Certainly. I would suggest reaching out to our Bronx office, who would be pleased to speak with you, or any other members of the public. Thank you. We've heard from 5 speakers in opposition. We will now turn to 5 speakers in support, beginning with Cassandra Saunders, who will be followed by Michael Ryan.
Good morning, council members. My name is Cassandra Saunders. I'm a local union worker, and I support the Blondale Avenue project for affordable housing in the Bronx. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Saunders? You're off the hook. Our next speaker is Michael Saunders, who will be followed by Horace Mitchell.
Michael Ryan.
I am sorry, Michael Ryan.
Good morning. My name is Michael Ryan. I am a carpenter with Local 1556. A lot of my brothers are here. And I support, because they say they're going to use union labor. I have my doubts about that. What I heard from people, because I know the area very well, and I'm going to say something that is personal to me, and that's affordable housing. When I heard the rates being, that's not affordable housing, not for that area. And when I hear about homeless, 11 years ago, I was homeless. And I got on my knees, and by the grace of God, I got off drugs and alcohol. I'm a union carpenter. I'm working. I'm a father. I'm a son again. And thank you. And to hear what I'm hearing here, there's people dying in the streets. There's mental illness all over this country. And affordable housing, I don't think is the answer. I think we need to get housing for these people who are homeless. And if that's the area, putting 225 cars is a joke. That's a laugh. To congest that street, cars coming in and out, no. I'm all for union work for us and for everybody else. I hear nothing. I heard a lot of good stuff from these women who did their homework, and I believe them. I'm all for union work, but from what I have heard here today, I didn't hear anything particularly interesting and to the point. You don't give an answer to a public hearing. I hear you to the Bronx. She'll go back into. We're here. We're all guys that want to work, want to do the help, and like I said, it's going to be 4 degrees. There's going to be people laying out in the street with frostbite tonight. If you want to do something, get those people off the street. There's an area to do it. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing such a inspiring story with us, Mr. Ryan. Questions? We will turn to our next speaker, who is Horace Mitchell, who will be followed by Anthony Ferdinand.
How you doing? My name is Horace Mitchell. I approve a project to help put my brothers and sisters back to work, and
Thank you. No, appreciate your taking the time to come here. Our next speaker is Anthony Ferdinand, who will be followed by Harry Culver.
Morning to the sitting the conference, morning to the public. Anthony Ferdinand, carpenter of Local 926. It's a privilege to be here to voice my concern. Like my brother who spoke before this last person, I mean, he was reading my mind. When I've heard about affordable housing, it keeps pestering me in the sense, seeing so many brothers and sisters out on the street, and this affordable housing is not towards our benefit. And the other good thing is, as workers, union workers, we got the opportunity or privilege, I mean, for job opportunities. But how many of us, union workers, would get this opportunity to own one of those houses or these apartments based on the price? This is my main concern. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Ferdinand. Questions? Okay, our next speaker will be IRA Culver.
Good morning. IRA Culver, proud member of Local 157. I'm in Carpenters Union. I hear a lot of people talk and affordable housing, and we don't have nothing signed with this guy yet, but at least we're talking to him, which is something anyway.
We want commitment.
And well, maybe we got to see about that, but maybe you can put a little pressure on him, because I live here. I don't live in the Bronx. I live in Woodside, Queens, and I spend my money here. I work here. I live here. I raise my family here. And at least the union guy, he gives us, you can't pay me $100 a day plus lunch, like a lot of these guys get. I got to make a decent buck. And the union does give me a decent buck. And I pay my taxes. I pay 40% of my salary every week goes to the man, including a city tax, which might even put some money in your pockets. I'm not sure. So maybe you can put some pressure on these guys, because they're building all over the place.
That's right.
You understand? And we're getting whacked. And you just look at the, people, I heard people mention the emergency rooms. Well, these non-union guys, where do you think they go when they get sick? I go to a doctor, because I get benefits paid to me. And like you guys get a benefit plan too, I'm sure. But these other non-union guys, they don't get nothing. And yous are letting them build, because they got to come to you first to get the buildings taken care of, to get the permits and everything else. You should talk to them. Say, what are you paying these guys? Well, we all get a health plan and a medical plan and a decent pension, and I appreciate that. But you's got to put the pressure on. We do. We stand out there in the cold, all of us, and maybe some of you even walk by us. But this is, at least this guy's talking. You put the pressure on him. You ask me, come on, buck up, because she's getting good money for these apartments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Culver. Questions? Thank you. Having heard from 5 speakers in support, we will now go back to speakers in opposition. Mr. Karl Anderson.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for letting me speak today. I'm Karl Anderson, a resident on Blondell Avenue. I'm a physician by profession. I'm speaking in opposition to the proposed rezoning application for Blondell Commons. Zoning was previously reviewed and revised for this community on 3/22/06, and Blondell Avenue was kept at M1-1. The previous councilman, Jimmy Vaca, opposed a zoning change for Blondell Avenue. Community boards 10 and 11 have already voted against this proposed zoning change. There is already a large area nearby zoned for commercial and residential, and a much smaller area zoned M1-1. Blondell Avenue is ideally suited to the M1-1 zoning category. I know some of you have been there. Just let me give you a little picture. Blondell Avenue contains low-rise commercial buildings and residences. It's a very nice street, and new businesses are being added all the time. I was walking down there. There's a business making custom T-shirts, a glass and mirror business, an electrical contractor, fire sprinkler company, modest 3-story apartment building, several private homes, a business providing services for people with developmental disabilities, a floor and office cleaning service, a number of automotive businesses. These businesses provide good jobs. This area is ideally suited to M1-1. You could have medical offices, you could have professional services. There was the tax accounting area. That's ideal. This proposed zoning change would lead to 9-story apartment buildings that are absolutely much too large for the neighborhood. The development would lead to overcongestion on the roads leading to the neighborhood. Blondell is a narrow, one-way, busy street. Ambulances use that to get to the hospitals. They go right down to get to Albert Einstein. If we have a lot of parking and it's blocked, people are going to die on the ambulances. There will not be enough parking in the spaces for the increased number of residents and their guests. As we've heard, the site is contaminated, signed a former wrecking business, no schools nearby, limited open spaces. Okay, we all understand the need for affordable housing, but an outside development like this is not any way to accomplish this. A housing plan shouldn't involve jamming large apartment buildings where they don't belong. So any zoning changes should be evaluated for the whole community as a whole. Let's review all the zoning and should not be done piecemeal in response to individual development requests. The only reason we're getting this request is because a developer wants to build something on this property. This project can be relocated to nearby areas that are already zoned like this. The neighborhood should be kept in its current zoning classification M1-1. This proposed zoning change does not make any sense, would not make a positive contribution to the community, would serve only the purposes of this developer. So I'm asking that the zoning proposal be denied and any questions of zoning be looked at for the community as a whole and changes made only if they improve the community. Thank you very much.
Questions for Dr. Anderson? Commissioner Ortiz.
Hi, you mentioned the ambulance accessibility to Albert Einstein. Has anybody spoken to the hospital? Have they weighed in on, the degree to which do they have concerns? Because I think that would be something for us to know.
Yeah, no, that's important. That's important. I'm not aware if they have, but I know, like living on the street, we see ambulances going by all the time. And basically, there was an interview, a TV interview. While we were doing it, 2 ambulances came by. Because it's one way where they can get through without a lot of, there's no like stoplights along there. So they go right down Blondell, turn right on Eastchester Road and get right into Albert Einstein. So I think that's an important point.
Well, it would be helpful to hear something from the hospital and to see if they have any concerns about this.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you very much.
We will now return to speakers in support, beginning with Leroy Thomas, who will be followed by Sinead Wadsworth. Is Mr. Leroy Thomas here? Okay, then I will invite Sinead Wadsworth. Ms. or Mr. Wadsworth? Then we will move on to Deborah. Great, okay, well, wait.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to be here to let us speak and hear our testimonies. I am a New York City District Council of Carpenters representative, and I'm here with 300 of my brothers and sisters today to support this project. Oh, you guys, you can raise your hands, okay? The developer has been very receptive and open to the community's needs and has had open dialogue with the carpenters in regards to this project. And unfortunately, it seems like no matter what they try to do, it's not good enough. The community asks for schools, and the community asks for transportation, and it doesn't matter what they say or do. It just seems like it's going to get turned down. I am a Bronx resident. I've lived here all my life, and like most families, I grew up in poverty. It wasn't until I moved out of the Bronx is when I was able to actually become successful. So I'm here in support of the project because when you see success in front of you and when you see infrastructure and you see your neighborhood and your environment grow and prosper, you can see a future for yourself in your community. And, you know, I support the project 100%. Again, I'm here with 300 carpenters in support of this project because the developer is trying to do the right thing by bringing up the neighborhood. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Wadsworth. Questions? Okay, our next speaker is Deborah Starr Reed, who will be followed by Lara Brooks. Is Ms. Starr Reed here? Yes. Great.
Hello, and thank you. I'm glad to have this opportunity to speak to you, the city planning. I just recently found out about this project, and so I don't know all the details. My interest in coming here and speaking today has to do with the fact that this contractor was open and somewhat receptive to speaking with us, the union, about the possibilities of working with union personnel. And this is so badly needed in such a great state as New York City, and especially the Bronx. How it is that we cannot negotiate good planning with good contractors and union workers. And so this is my hope and my desire to see that the union is incorporated in this project, and that change is usually for good. I can see how this project can come in and improve this neighborhood. It may not be what they're used to, but it may be something negotiable that can work to house many more people, and there is some affordable housing available here. And this opportunity to, for the Planning Commission here, to ask the big questions about what the contractor is doing with his workers and the possibility of being able to support the union so that families are not only able to move into a building, but can also have the benefit of having people work and make decent wages and have benefits in which they can survive. And we might have actually less homeless in the city of New York. So I just want to make that point that this is an opportunity that maybe only you can explore, but we would appreciate your support because the union is having a difficult time in New York, and it's not because we don't do the best work, because we do. But we need contractors, and we need a consciousness that is about supporting all the people that a working class person deserves to have benefits and to be able to work. Thank you very much.
Questions for Ms. Starr Reed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Lara Brooks, followed by Alex Garoni.
Good morning, City Planning Commission. I'm here as a tenant, a resident of the Throgs Neck community, Westchester Square, the whole Blondale, that whole area, and I'm here to support it. I think that it has been long awaited. It is what the community needs. The fact that there will be affordable housing for different levels of income. And it is an area that is congested, but he has actually changed the plans and put in more than 200 slots for parking, which would take, actually, it's, would be under the building. So therefore, there would be eliminating the congestion that we already see on the street.
I would like to be able to have some place that I could live, that I could afford, or that my children, maybe get some of my adult children out the house. So we welcome this. And, it does not hurt our community. I think that he gets it, the developer, and that he has incorporated, and just the fact that there could even be a school in there. So the fact that there could be a school there is going to show that this is going to be a safe place. It does not hinder the traffic of ambulance getting to Einstein Hospital or to Westchester Square, quote, Montefiore, which is now called Montefiore at the square. Both of those hospitals you will be able to have access to without this development in any way being a hindrance to it. I ask that we really look at this closely. The Bronx, at least on this side of the Bronx, the Throgs next area of the Bronx, we don't have housing like this around us, and we are starving for it. We really, really need it. We, the Throgs Neck community, are in favor of it. We welcome it, and we hope to be able to work closely with the developer and make sure. But I think that he gets it so far. He's heard what was said, and he's actually trying to meet the needs of what we want as a community in our community. And for that, I thank you, and I hope that you give him the ability to be able to move forward with this project that we, the Throgs Neck community, really want.
Thank you, Ms.
so
Brooks.
much.
Questions? Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Okay, you're off the hook. Our next speaker is Alex Garoni, to be followed by Laverne Francis.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a current resident on Blondell Avenue and used to own a business on the square. For many years of observing the neighborhood, there's a big problem in this neighborhood. There's lack of residential. It's a tremendous problem. I have many friends that own businesses in the neighborhood. They're suffering, they're closing their doors. There's not enough people in the neighborhood to thrive. Another thing is that area of Blondell Avenue needs to be lit up at night. It's very desolate, it's quiet. I believe once you put a large structure there and light up the neighborhood, it's gonna be a lot safer place to walk through. Many people are very afraid to walk down Blondell because there's nothing happening at night. Another problem is you have many people coming by and dumping garbage constantly. We call all the time. It's just like a dumping ground. So to me, common sense says if you put something there, it's definitely going to eliminate the garbage and all the illegal activity that goes on there at night. But definitely Westchester Square needs residential. And hopefully, if this goes through, maybe more people will join and rebuild the Westchester Square area because it's overdue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garoni. Questions? Our next speaker is Laverne Francis, to be followed by Jordan Brea.
Hi, good morning. My name is Laverne Francis. I just heard about this last night at my tenant association meeting that I went to. I am definitely in favor of this because I do also have adult children that need their own apartments, and it's really hard when you can't afford an apartment, so they stay with the mother. And also, Blondell is a street that has a lot of auto mechanic places there. That is not a street that they use to take an ambulance through. I've been in that area for over 50 years, and I've never went through there in an ambulance. And I'm always at the hospital. I use Jacoby, it's my hospital. Next to the place Blondell that he's talking about of the hospital is Albert Einstein. Also, we have a lot of dental hospitals there and stuff like that, and the Westchester Square is on the other side. But I've never, ever had an ambulance take me through that street in over 50 years to get to Jacoby nor Albert Einstein Hospital. I've never seen an ambulance go through there. I don't know if they do, but I wouldn't go through there because it's congestion already with the people that's running auto mechanic shops there. I'm also in favor of it because we do need more housing that is affordable for us. Like me right now, I'm looking to come out the projects, and my daughter keeps saying, where are you going? And I would like to stay in the North Bronx. I do not want to go back to the South Bronx. I'm from the South Bronx. I want to stay in the North Bronx. So when I heard it last night, I got up this morning and I tossed with it. And I said, go ahead. But I know I would be speaking. But I said, go ahead and see if you can help, because if you don't put your foot in it, you're not going to get nothing out of it. You know, and we all need to stick together to help for something good coming. It's not nothing bad that's coming, it's something good. When he spoke about the parking, the school, and things like that, I'm for. You know, I don't have any grandkids, but I will get some. My kids, they're smart, they don't have none at their ages, which is 37, 29, and 23. They have no kids because they're trying to get ahead before they bring a family into this world that we live in. And a building like that would be really nice on Blondale Avenue. It's not a bad area of the North Bronx. And I've been there over 50 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Francis, and thank you for making the trip down from the North Bronx. Our next speaker is Jordan Brea.
Good morning. I'm in favor of the project due to the fact that I am not only a local, I also work in the area. I work in one of the cellular stores on the street. I've also noticed that, you know, when I park on Blondale, I am a little nervous to walk through it when I get out and it's a little dark on the street. And you wouldn't think a guy my size would be scared. But yeah, you know, it's lacking in people. The local businesses there's not a lot of foot traffic. You know, my boss is always complaining, you know, we're not getting enough. There's not that many people coming in. We're not selling this, we're not selling that. And it would be nice to have, you know, a higher foot traffic count in the area. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Well, that is the last person who has signed up to speak. If there is anyone else present who would like to speak, I would ask, yes, please come forward and identify yourself, please. And others who might be interested, if you would be ready to line up behind this gentleman.
Yes, good morning. My name is Hassan Reed. I'm actually from Queens, not from the Bronx. Been there a couple times. But from what I hear, that this block that they're talking about, it seems to be a real dead zone at night, which is not good. And what I would like for you to do, since you guys have control, the developers, this low income that they're talking about, it's never always been low income. After it is finished and they gone about their business, then the people have problem and can't afford it. Also, the guys who work for them, they don't get no wages. So even this building that they work on and build, they will never even able to even live in it. It don't make no sense. So if we're gonna develop, I think it to go to the union. If it's not the union doing it, where at least when they finish, maybe one or two union workers could afford it, then it should be a no-no. Pay the guys who are working proper wages. And yes, I would agree, develop the place. Let people come in. Let more light get in the place. Let people don't be scared to walk in there. But please, let it be affordable, as they say. Not affordable, and then when they're finished and gone, it's not affordable. They use this word affordable so many times. And after it's finished, it's not affordable. So since you guys have the power over that, please look into that carefully. Let it be affordable and stop letting guys work for nothing. Give it to the union. Make sure it's 100% union, where the guys could work a decent wage and at least one person get to live there after it's finished. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else has signed up to speak, and so I would now welcome Adam Milligan.
Yes, good morning. I used to live in that area. I used to drive in that area, and I even got my car fixed in that area. And I think the development to actually do something to make it better would be great. And I've been in the union for like 11 years. And no accident, no incident. You know, over the years, you know, a lot of non-union been getting accidents, having accidents, and I think it'll be very profitable for the union to actually do the job. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll once again extend the opportunity for anyone who would like to be heard, if they would come forward now. Okay, before closing this public hearing, I want to recognize and thank the very many members of the public who took time out from their day. Those who spoke and also those who didn't speak, you speak volumes by dedicating your time this way, and we very much appreciate it. And with that, the public hearing is closed.
I'll give them a minute. Madam Chair, I'll give them a minute to leave, okay? It is, but it's also the winter, right? Winter. I mean, I'm too old for that. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah. He's over there singing about his friends. There. Oh, yeah.
If I could ask folks who are leaving to leave the room so that we would be able to proceed with our next hearing. Thank you.
With his mercy, we will reap the rewards.
Okay. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 26, 27, and 28. Calendar number 26, CD1, N190083, ZRK. Calendar number 27, C190084, ZSK. Calendar number 28, C190085, ZSK. A public hearing in the matter of applications for a zoning text amendment and for the grant of special permits concerning 103 North 13th Street.
We're going to have a 10-minute presentation by an applicant team comprised of Richard Lobel, Charles Krieger, Nick Liberis, and Jeff Rubin.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioners, Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel PC for the applicant. I hope that the exodus from the room had nothing to do with me or my presentation, but I will begin regardless. So we're here today for a special permit. The special permit is for 103 North 13th Street and is threefold. The first would be an amendment to the industrial business incentive area. It would be a text amendment to the map. The second would be for a 74962 special permit with regards to FAR and bulk at the proposed development. And the third would be for a 74963 reduction in parking to produce what would be a 7-story building at a height of approximately 109 feet. So to cover the first action, I'd point you to the dotted area in the map, which basically roughly tracks the M12 area within the originally proposed IBIA. Of course, the IBIA through city planning and council action was reduced to, at the time, the application for 25 Kent. And since that time, two applications, one being Franklin and the other being this application, have now approached the commission. And so the application involves expanding the text to allow for our site to be included as well as for the substantive special permit. The expansion of the IBIA here, as you can see from the dotted area, is between North 13th and North 14th Streets. It is a 250-foot setback from Wythe Avenue, and so it would include the entirety of 4 lots and parts of 2 lots. As you can see on the map. 103 North 13th is the grayed out portion on the southerly portion of the map, which faces North 13th Street. You can see this more in detail in the tax map. The dotted area, again, is the entire project area, and the area in red is the development site. I will note that there are sites within the project area, which I understand, as a matter of record, are applying for their own special permits. So in this case, we expect there be additional activity within the immediate area. There are some photos of both the existing structure at the premises as well as the location of the site within the area. 103 North 13th Street is a 60-foot wide street. There formerly was a 1-story warehouse fruit distribution center on the site. And since that time, there was the site was taken down. There was found to be hazardous materials. There was remediation which went on with as part and parcel of the Brownfields program. So the site has been cleaned up and a foundation is in place, and the applicant now seeks approvals to produce a special permit building. Running through the photos briefly, I will note that the building would be a 7-story building. It would begin with approximately, in rough numbers, 10,000 square feet of retail uses on the ground floor, in addition to an entry to the loading berths. On the second floor is while the first floor has the permitted uses, which are part of that 2 FAR for commercial and office, the second floor produces the required industrial uses. These are roughly 10,000 square feet of what we feel is high quality space for industrial uses. This is something which we discussed at length with the community board, with the borough president's office. It really is fairly unique as far as these buildings come online, and part of the special permit, of course, encourages this development of really modern and also very usable industrial space. The project architect here, Nick Liberis, can talk to the nature of the space as well as the layout of the building. I would note that he is also the architect for the 2 prior special permits which have gone through the City Planning Commission. The spaces above this space amount to both 15,000 square feet of the additional permitted uses, which would be in the form of Use Group 6 office space, as well as the additional 25,000 square feet of permitted uses also planning on being Use Group 6 office space. And again, we have the building, the rendering of the building from the side. With that, and with an additional land use map, I think I would probably just hand this over to Nick, who can discuss a little bit about the particular nature of this building.
Sure, thank you. Hi, just one small correction. We were not the applicants for the other 2. We did get 25 Kent through the DOB the first time that it went through, but it was switched over to Gensler, and FX Fowl is the applicant for 12 Franklin. So we are the applicant for this, and we are the applicant for the upcoming 29 Wythe, which is next door as well. And this building, you can see from over here, it has like kind of a reduced presence on the street, and this is intentional. So while Rich says that it goes up to 109 feet, that's actually to the top of the bulkheads. So we've kept it to about 95 feet to the top of the roof. As Rich said, we have first floor retail, we have second floor light manufacturing, and then we have 4 more floors of Use Group 6 office space. The light manufacturing is up to city planning standards, where we have a 15-foot clear ceiling height for the second floor. We have a dedicated freight component, and we have one other freight which also serves the rest of the building. And we have setbacks at the 7th floor, as you can see over here, and we've tried to retain some sort of material connection to all the buildings that used to occupy these sites. As you know, this was something which was predominantly light manufacturing, storage. And we think there's a lot of lip service being paid, to retaining some sort of sense memory of what these programs were. So we are trying to, in a non-slavish way, kind of evoke the same like material palette. So to that end, we have two types of brick here. We have something at the top which is a kind of like a cheeky riff on like a sawtooth roof, and you can see that these top floors have extra space because we have excellent views looking down into the 25 Kent Plaza and across the street to the William Vale rooftop. So let me see what else can we. This is the ground floor. You can see that we have the loading berth furthest to the east. It's right next to the office lobby. The loading berth has access to both the freight elevator and also to the passenger/freight facility over there to the right-hand side of this lobby. The egress is set up in a very normative way where we have it on either lot line, such as to open up the space maximally within the upper floors. You have a cellar floor, which is open, which is encroached on a little bit by the pit for the big freight elevator. You could see that we have this big freight over here, and when we came in for the special permit, the foundation had been poured already, so we weren't able to sink it. So we have like a very much reduced ceiling height underneath here. And then up on these floors, we have the light manufacturing on the 3rd floor, and then 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th floors are all Use Group 6 office. You can see the building here, as I described before, is 95 feet to the top of the roof. And this is an elevation. And at this point, I think I'm going to punt this back over to Rich.
So I think just the last thing that I would mention would be that pursuant to 74963, the parking at the site is being requested to be reduced to no parking spaces. This was actually a subject of conversation, and I know that the commission raised this in their discussion on Monday. The community board actually did approve us with no parking spaces. We did provide evidence of parking in the area. Jeff Rubin from PHA would be able to discuss this with a little bit more specificity, but suffice to say that that the discussion around parking really centered on the types of uses here, the fact that this will be contributing to the purposes of the special permit in creating walk-to-work space. There is adequate bike parking at the space, and so it was really a productive conversation with the community board, and in general with regards to the fact that much of these spaces would not be needed. And so as far as the environmental diligence that was performed, we do note that the projected visits to the site do support not only a reduction in the parking spaces here, but also in the loading berth activity as well, which I know was noted by the commission in their discussion. And with that, the applicant team would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I don't know that the term cheeky nod is in the zoning resolution, but I like it. Questions for the applicant team? Commissioner Dweck.
Thank you. So I'm not sure if you've had a chance to review in full the Borough President's recommendation.
19 pages.
Yes, and it came in late Monday, so I'm not sure. But if you can now or in writing address that, unless you have the answers now.
Yeah, I think we'd be happy to submit on this. The truth is that historically, I think there's a conversation with the Brooklyn Borough President's Office with regards to the required industrial space and the use of accessory space within that space. And so Department of Buildings sets forth certain criteria for use of accessory space, particularly for retail activity, which is characterized as use groups 16 through 18, depending on the underlying nature of the space. We have great respect for the Brooklyn Borough President's Office as well as their land use division and understand the depth and seriousness of this conversation. Having said that, we're happy to be coming to the commission with this application. We think that this and other applications is achieving what was sought in the original application, which is really to provide high-quality industrial space in this area. So many of these discussions with regards to, for example, limitation of the accessory space to 10% of that space go above and beyond what would be required pursuant to Department of Buildings regulations and would indeed impose a significant requirement on the special permit itself. And while we're happy to engage in that conversation and submit on that, it probably is more appropriate that we give you a letter.
And then a follow up on my comment on Monday about the waiver of the parking spaces. So the cellar space will be now used for retail. Is there a thought to providing some of that cellar space for light industrial use?
You know, we discussed this as an applicant team. Right now, the access between the second story and the cellar is not optimal. There's the freight elevator doesn't go all the way down to the cellar level. So it's contemplated that most of the industrial users actually would, to the extent they needed additional space, would have that space on the second floor adjacent to their operating space. So while I can understand that there may be certain benefits in certain buildings which would tie the industrial space to that cellar space, here it's probably better laid out for access by the retail and commercial tenants on the ground floor.
Thank you.
Sure.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
I wasn't here on Monday, so I don't know if this question was asked or not. But with regard to the loading berth, Richard, you have a singular loading berth here. What do you envision in terms of traffic impacts and how multiple vehicles arriving at this site would be queued, et cetera?
Vice Chair, at this time I would probably defer to Jeff Rubin from Philip Habib and Associates to discuss some of the particular impacts.
Okay.
Right. Good morning, Commissioners. Just to reintroduce myself, Jeff Rubin, Philip Habib and Associates. I'm a planner with the firm. We prepared a loading dock forecast, demand of how many trucks we believe would visit the building on a typical day. We believe that it would be, given that we're talking about 10,000 square feet of industrial use, of only approximately 4 trucks per day that would need to use the loading berth. There would be additional trucks associated with the retail and office uses, but those would primarily be trucks that don't need to use the loading berth, more along the lines of FedEx trucks, et cetera. Currently, the street has parking regulations that are supportive of loading. No parking is permitted on the street currently. Of course, the applicant can control DOT parking regulations, but that's what the parking regulations are now. And I think that the applicant would be happy for those to continue so that loading, which is currently allowed by the parking regulations, could continue during the day.
And the operational hours of the loading berth would be what or when?
Well, the operational hours of the loading berth?
Yes.
I think they would coincide with the operational hours of the businesses in the building. I don't know if the rest of the applicant team has any thoughts on that, but you know, it's a dedicated loading berth, so the loading, whenever the businesses would be there, the loading berth would be available to them. Does that address your concern?
For the most part.
Okay.
Commissioner Deleuze.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for the walking us through things. You know, as Mr. LaBelle said, the whole purpose of the special permit is to achieve high-quality industrial uses. And since we haven't actually seen the rent up of any of the spaces yet, I'm wondering if you have any sense of what the demand for the industrial space might be. And if you can share any of that information, and also if you could address the point in the community board's recommendation about the rate at which the industrial space would be rented, and whether or not there's been any conversations with Evergreen or another such organization that is familiar with the area and the industrial business needs.
So I would just start addressing the second question, actually, and then defer to Nick Liberos, who is a project architect here, but was not for the prior special permits. So with regards to the projected discount on industrial space, as far as the rents are concerned, we've sat down with Evergreen multiple times and have had just a really good dialogue with Evergreen, and given the fact that much of the discussion is around the availability of the space on an immediate level. So Evergreen will, can obviously would represent their own discussion, but oftentimes the discussion is around their lists of potential industrial tenants who are just waiting for the space. And so every conversation we've had with them has been that they're interested in the special permit and they're very encouraging of that, but that they really need more space online now. With regards to the 20% discount specifically, I think that it is something which we've talked about internally, both from a market standpoint as well as from an application standpoint. From a market standpoint, I feel that with the coming online of many of these special permit applications, both the 3 which have been granted or 2 which have been granted, 1 which is pending being granted, as well as others which are coming in, it's going to have a significant impact on this space, on what those rents are, et cetera. And I think on a case-by-case basis, the applicant here would definitely look to potentially provide a discount to rent. I can't give you any specific numbers right now, and I have talked with Evergreen about what the current rates are, what market is right now, and those numbers are widely varied given the fact that there is not a lot of this type of space in there. What we do think and what we have discussed internally is that with the onset of 25 Kent's opening, we're going to have a much better idea about what that market is, and we expect that our rents would somewhat mirror the rents both for 25 Kent as well as Franklin as the application proceeds. The other thing I would actually discuss right now, I would defer to Nick, who has great familiarity with not just this area, but with industrial tenants and with planning of the space, because I know that he's talked to a lot of the potential tenants and can kind of talk about the available uses.
Thanks, Rich. So, like Rich said, there's an evergreen pipeline, which we haven't really seen yet, but we have seen are the adjacent tenants that were recently forced out of 29 Wythe because it got demoed. So there are 4 or 5 of those guys that are waiting to get in, and there's people that are like directly across the street there that also want to get in, and these guys range from like boutique bicycle manufacturers to like machinists. There's a watchmaker. There is a couple clothing makers, and there's also a kosher bakery that the applicant has been going back and forth with. So right now the strategy is like to basically try to find as many people as we can to see how we could fill out the space. What we always see anytime that we have a retail space or anytime that we have something that could be subdivided is that often as people get into the nitty-gritty of these negotiations, things start to disaggregate, and you end up with these really custom shaped like spaces. So we can't really comment as to the as to who will be taking what type or what like size of space or in what proximity to what building feature. But we have a very active dialogue with, by my count, six different people right now. And I think as the building becomes closed, then these people get access to the building, and then this like negotiation process can start in earnest, to kind of delimit who gets what space. Also, something that I didn't touch on before, there are 2 large shafts also for this building. So no matter where each of these guys would be, they have very good access to all like sorts of exhaust in a way that wouldn't limit them or would artificially create some sort of restriction, but also like bargaining like advantage, I guess, in favor of yes. Would you like to speak about the bakery or no? Okay.
Other questions from the commission? Commissioner Levin.
I guess I'm struck by the fact that we're hearing from the project lawyer and the project architect. Who's the project owner? And what experience do they have developing these kinds of properties? And in particular, what experience with industrial space? which we know is a completely different animal from developing and managing commercial space, which we know is the red cherry on this thing.
Sure. So I'd introduce Charles Krieger at this time. Charles is a representative of the Rapsky Group, which has an extensive amount of experience with regards to commercial buildings and some industrial buildings in the area. Of course, particularly here with the onset of these industrial spaces, we expect that there's going to be, really new ground to be covered. But, we took in the comments from the commission, particularly with regards to operation in the building as well as management of the building. And I know Charles has had discussions with management groups already utilized by Rapsky who have experience with industrial buildings and industrial tenants. So maybe Charles can just discuss that briefly.
Yeah, hi. I thank you for listening. My name is Charles Krieger. I work for the Rapsky Group. We're a developer in Brooklyn. We have completed a large number of residential properties in the last couple of years, including 395 Leonard, which is 188 units, 146 South 4th Street, which was 113 units. We just finished the Rheingold Brewery. I'm sure you've heard about that project. 10 Montieth Street. Many of our projects do have a retail component on the first floor, which we've leased out. Not any of the newer buildings, but in some of the older properties. In regards to industrial space, this would probably be one of our first projects. We would be doing light industrial, but recently we've purchased 101 Varick Avenue in Bushwick. And we've worked for about a year and a half to 2 years preparing the building, and we just thankfully signed a license agreement with the Department of Transportation. They are going to be leasing up the whole building. We were very happy about that lease. It was a long time in the process, a lot of work done, interior, exterior work, a lot of requirements in the license agreement to get this building prepared for them. And I'm sure you've heard the news, but last week we did sign the license agreement with the city, and that's our first introduction to industrial, and that's a pretty big introduction for a company like ours who haven't done industrial to sign a 70,000 square foot warehouse with three stories of office space. So in regard to this building, this would be an additional industrial tenants that we'd be bringing in. And we've been working on this for a while, and we're looking forward. We have two management groups that we work with. One is our own management company that we own called Goose Property Management. They do mostly our residential, but some of our buildings we have retained a company called Top Quality Management. They have experience with industrial tenants. We've also recently signed a lease to lease up another one of our properties at 755 Kent with ODA, which is one of the big healthcare provider for the Williamsburg area for many of the people living over there. So we feel that with our past experience with mainly residential, but also adding to it our recent license agreement signing with the DOT, and now with this new building, that we have the capabilities of bringing in the tenants and managing this building, to the highest regard for tenants, and keeping and really adding to the neighborhood, and actually making the neighborhood of Williamsburg a better place to work and live. And we look forward to having this building completed. Thank you.
Other questions? Then I will thank the applicant team and note that there are not other speakers signed up, but if anyone present would like to speak, now would be the time. The public hearing is closed.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners.
Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 26, 27, and 28. No, I'm sorry, I'm calling the wrong number. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 29, CD12, C180171ZMK. A public hearing in the matter of an application for a zoning map amendment concerning McDonald Avenue Catering.
Okay, we are going to have a 10-minute presentation by the applicant team, comprised of Adam Rothkrug, Mordecai Schwartz, Eugene Mikheyev, who's available for questions, and Jay Goldstein, also available for questions.
Thank you, Chair Lago, Commissioners. I'm Adam Rothkrug. I'm here on behalf of Congregation Chassidei Bells Beth Malka in connection with our application to add a C24 commercial overlay to an existing R5 district. The commercial zoning is designed to permit the continued operation of their two buildings of a commercial banquet facility located in the combined cellars of their two buildings at 600 McDonald Avenue and 317 Day Hill Road in the Borough Park section of Brooklyn, Community Board number 12. The photo shows the long red building on the bottom is the McDonald Avenue building, and then the red building on the opposite side, separated by the yellow line, is the Day Hill Road building. The rezoning will not allow any enlargements or other changes to the existing buildings, and it is to, again, permit the commercial use of their existing banquet facility. In addition to the subject properties, the rezoning includes 5 existing buildings along Avenue C, but similar to the subject buildings, it will not result in the creation of any additional permitted floor area, as the underlying R5 residential district will not be affected. And the commercial overlay does not result in an increase in the permitted floor area. The buildings on Avenue C are overbuilt, so the changes will not allow their enlargement. In this photo, the buildings on Avenue C are the ones, the white, starting with the white building to the right. The existing banquet facility, approximately 20,000 square feet of gross floor area, is located at the cellar level of the two school buildings, and during the day, it serves as a cafeteria facility for the schools. It accommodates approximately 400 people maximum, and as a result of the Jewish holidays and Sabbath observance, there are approximately 150 to 160 events per year. This shows the conversion of the room, which serves as a cafeteria and then as a banquet facility. The facility serves a vital need in this growing community as an affordable venue for weddings and other family events, and the income obviously supports the school. The facility was in receipt of a place of assembly permit from the Department of Buildings. I know during the certification hearing, Commissioner Cerullo asked about that. So the issuance of a PA permit indicates that the facility is in compliance with all applicable health, safety, fire department regulations. The use as a banquet facility is a permitted use, but right now it's limited legally to events that are accessory to the school only. For the past several years, it did expand due to the need in this community to serve as a low-priced option for weddings and other social events. Both of the current buildings, the girls' schools, were subject to variances from the Board of Standards and Appeals. The 600 McDonald building is used as a K through 8 building school, and Day Hill Road for 9th through 12th. The McDonald Avenue building is located on a regularly narrow lot, only 40 feet deep, created when the F train was originally established in the 1930s. The building was converted to a school in 1991, and in 1997 they obtained a variance to permit an addition of a second floor. The building at 317 Day Hill Road was constructed pursuant to a variance granted by the Board of Standards and Appeals. That's the building on the left. In 2002, permitting the 4-story plus cellar building in an R5 district. The commercial use, in response to a question asked at Monday's meeting, the commercial use came to light when the school filed for an addition to the building at the McDonald Avenue building. They filed for an addition to the third floor for the school use. And during the course of that proceeding, the commercial use of the banquet facility became evident to the board. The variance application has been withdrawn, and the application is currently, the facility is currently the subject of what's called a compliance hearing at the BSA. The BSA is tracking the operation of this facility while we pursued this rezoning application. The facility, to their benefit, and not the way you want to present something, but the fact that they have been operating there for several years without really complaints until the BSA application was filed, I think is a testament to their acceptance and operation of their use over the many years. We did attend the community board hearing. We did, at the community board's request, send out notices to all property owners within 400 feet. I also sent separate notices to the owners along Avenue C whose properties were included in the rezoning. At the community board hearing, there were 2 residents that appeared. They didn't appear because they were within the 400 feet. They saw a notice of the hearing on the community board's website. They had a problem with a different banquet hall that's operated near them, and they came to voice those complaints. So there were no people that spoke out in response to this operation. I heard from one of the owners on Avenue C, owner of 2 Avenue C, and he indicated no problems and no objection to the application. The area to be rezoned is a narrow sliver of R5 zoning located between 2 manufacturing districts. On this map, you can see the manufacturing to the east and west, and the small sliver of R5 that runs through. The 600 McDonald Avenue is directly opposite the transition of the F train from underground to above grade, with the M1 district on the opposite side, and the commercial overlay, we believe, along that entire length, in conversations with city planning staff, is appropriate, as any use will directly face the tracks. And while the school use is anticipated to continue for a long time to come, the overlay and permitted commercial use, including the banquet hall, we believe is an appropriate addition. The other surrounding area is truly a mixed-use area, many warehouses, manufacturing, commercial uses, and a lot of residential use as well. But Avenue C, again, the intersection of Avenue C and McDonald is a commercially active area. As I said, the 5 lots on Avenue C, not owned by the applicant, will be rezoned. They are primarily residential with 1 community facility religious organization. As I said, these buildings cannot be enlarged. There will be the possibility to establish commercial uses under the commercial zoning, which would be appropriate. These particular buildings have raised first floors, and so that they may not be appropriate for immediate conversion to any commercial uses. As I said, the banquet hall operates in the cellar of the 2 buildings. It's about 20,000 square feet, and again, has been operating for many years without incident or complaint in the community. We have representatives here that are available to respond to questions the commission may have.
Could you go, thank you. Could you go back to the photograph of the use as a dining or lunchroom and the banquet hall? I was just struck by the fact that it looks as if it was built to be a banquet hall. The sort of the level of finishes are not what one would expect in a cafeteria. So from the outset, this was built as a banquet hall, despite not being allowed under zoning?
So again, I would say that the facility is permitted for use for banquets, just not banquets that are not accessory to the school use. I don't know whether or not, maybe someone from the team can advise whether or not the banquet facility finishes were upgraded in any time after the original construction.
That would actually be helpful. And the second question I would have is, and it can be in a follow-up, of how frequently has the facility been used for the types of accessory to school use banquets?
Mm-hmm. So 2 questions. One is, was the original construction have banquet finishes, or were those added?
Towards the end of construction.
Toward the end of construction.
Again, it would be fine to do that in a follow-up letter.
Oh, okay. We can do that. But again, I think that when originally constructed, it was envisioned that it would be used for accessory social events, so the finishes might have been a little nicer than just expressly as a cafeteria. The nature of the school use is that there are again, there are galas and other events that fundraisers and other events related to the school operation that would justify or would explain the reason why the original construction might have had not 100% as a cafeteria.
Other questions? Commissioner Cirillo.
Adam, thank you first for the just acknowledging the question the other day and the information you provided. I guess I have a clarification point as someone who is generally always supportive of attempted legalization of particular uses. But I just want to clarify, I know you mentioned because of the BSA process, it's being sort of monitored. Does that mean that there is, at the present time, no commercial use activity occurring during this process?
No, commercial uses are ongoing. The Board of Standards and Appeals has requested, especially since the PA permit was not renewed, they've requested that we provide a report indicating that there was adequate supervision for fire safety for each event that takes place there.
Understood. So, and I guess I don't know the answer to this, but since the public assembly permit was not renewed, is it even possible to have commercial activity on the site? Isn't that required as a sort of base requirement before any activity and for the public's access to the space even occur?
So again, the facility is legally permitted to be used as a banquet facility. So the issue is the commercial use. So I think that both the Board of Standards and Appeals and the fire department have been working and monitoring it to make sure that hopefully until such time as we can fully legalize it through the rezoning process, that everything is being operated 100% as if it were, again, a fully permitted use, which again, to a large extent, the number of people, the type of events are permitted in the facility. So it has passed muster in that regard. I know at Monday you also asked about consumer affairs. My understanding, I did some quick research, is that banquet facilities are no longer covered by consumer affairs permits.
I'm so old. The laws have changed so many times.
Since 2017, the fire safety and video camera regulations that were part of the consumer affairs permit have been rolled into Department of Buildings and the PA permit process.
Thank you for that. I would say it sounds to me very risky. Obviously, there's been no violations. It seems that there had been no complaints and therefore likely no violations. I don't know if there are violations for unlicensed activity or any other activity, but I would just say that as this process continues, which is a very good thing, that it is risky to the school to have these kinds of events without all of the necessary paperwork, God forbid, of anything. That's all I will say. But
yes, Commissioner Ramprashad.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a quick question. So when you're having these events, do you file TPAs at the DOB frequently? Because I saw the plan with temporary place of assembly.
Yeah.
So is it for each event?
Right. So again, originally when we got our TPA, which was in 2016, it rolled over once or twice to 2017. And then when again, commercial use became apparent, the Department of Buildings didn't want to issue further TPAs. But we're still operating it as per that approved plans with a fire department monitor, with an architect certifying each event that is being operated in compliance with those requirements.
But under an expired TPA?
Under an expired TPA. But again, I would only say that technically we could argue that DOB should issue another TPA limited to accessory uses. They don't really have that in their playbook. So again, a lot of the agencies have been working together. It's obviously not the best way to come before the commission or any other agency, But that's the situation we find ourselves in. People and families have booked events going back a long time, and
So the
again,
applicant has not considered halting the unlawful commercial use during the pendency while requesting relief?
I mean, we've continued with, again, working with the agencies and the Board of Standards and Appeals, who's kept a very tight eye on us. And
But again, the question is, has the applicant considered halting the unlawful use during the pendency?
I would say unless there was a specific order to halt, the applicant would prefer to continue.
I'll take that as a no. Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Levin.
Well, along that line, I guess sort of teasing out the question of accessory, what's the relationship? Who operates the catering hall? Is it the school?
It's operated through a...
Or licensed to a, leased to a separate business?
It's licensed to an operator.
Totally separate?
Totally separate.
Okay, so really not accessory at all, the catering hall component?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's available for accessory events at all. All the events take place after school hours, and it is operated by a separate licensee, yes.
Okay, thank you. And you've used several ways of describing the number of years this has been going on. You've said at one point, you said twice several years, and once you said many years. So when you write back to us with the information that the chair requested, could you please be precise about when the catering hall activity began?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I just have
Yes, Vice Chair Knuckles.
just historical context here, Adam. When the two variances that were granted here, one in 97 and another one in 2000, I think it was, they were granted to build schools.
Schools.
And the uses now that we're discussing evolved out of the school use? Is that what we're saying?
Correct. The school, the second school was built. The Department of Buildings approved an application to permit the interconnection of the cellar as a common cafeteria area for the two schools, and then the use for commercial catering developed as well. So.
Thank you.
Commissioner Levin.
Sorry, I realized I had two more questions that get us off this question of legality. Is the intention, you mentioned that this all came to light when an application was filed to the BSA for an expansion of the McDonald Avenue building. Is it your intention, your client's intention to pursue that expansion once this situation gets cleared up?
I would like to say yes. There's no application pending, and the Board of Standards and Appeals has made it pretty clear to us that they would not look favorably upon any further changes to the variance in the foreseeable future. So we do have a need, a desire, but again, it would be subject to a variance, and again, the board has made their position pretty clear.
Okay. And then finally, the borough president raised the question of parking and conditioned his recommendation for approval on being satisfied that arrangements had been made for a certain number of parking spaces. Can you tell us how that works?
Sure. So the facility, their reasoning with regard to why no parking is required was a little wrong, but the facility is located in a cellar, so there's no parking technically required. The Board of Standards and Appeals had requested, as part of their oversight, that we provide a parking study, and the facility has, for the past years, leased a parking facility located on the diagram, a block to the west, labeled parking, where we have a facility that we use during the evenings that's available for about approximately 50 cars so that we use. As I said, the Board of Standards and Appeals requested a parking study be done. The parking study found no appreciable difference between the availability of on-site parking for event evenings versus non-event evenings. It's approximately 95% on-street spaces utilized for non-event evenings and between 96 and 98% during event evenings. So right now it's operated depending on the size of the event, whether or not the valet parkers use that lot or find available on-street spaces. We try to encourage them to use that lot first. Again, it's, as you can see, it's about a block away, so.
Commissioner Dweck.
Thank you. Have you had any conversations with the local council member yet on this? And
Yes, we've been in touch with Councilman Lander's office for a couple of years since we started this process, and in connection with the BSA process, and they're familiar with the facility, and they've been working with us and supportive of the application over the course of the last 2 years.
thank you.
Other questions? If I could ask in your follow-up, if you could indicate, in connection with the original school, how soon after the opening of the school was the first commercial use of the banquet hall, and the same information with respect to the combined, how soon after the combination was the first commercial use? I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Okay, those are the only speakers who have signed up to be heard, but if anyone else would like to, now would be the time. The public hearing is closed.
Thank you very much.
Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 30 through 33. Calendar number 30, CD2, C190071, ZMK. Calendar number 31, C190072, ZSK. Calendar number 32, C190073, ZSK. Calendar number 33, N190074, ZRK. A public hearing in the matter of applications for a map, zoning map and zoning text amendments and for the grant of special permits concerning 809 Atlantic Avenue rezoning.
We'll have a 10-minute team presentation by Dan Eagers, Jeff Gershom, Alex Lieber, and Morris Ajmi.
Hi, good afternoon now, Chair Lago and Commissioners. My name is Dan Eggers. I'm an attorney from Greenberg Trarg representing 550 Clinton Partners, LLC, and 539 Vanderbilt Partners, LLC, prospective developers of 2 new buildings along the north side of Atlantic Avenues between Clinton and Vanderbilt Avenues. I'm joined by architect Morris Ajmi and his team, who will speak shortly. I'm also joined to answer any questions you may have by Jeff Gershon, representing the developer, and Alex Lieber of AKRF. You'll later hear from the Reverend Andrew Dubridge, interim rector of the Church of St. Luke and St. Matthew, who will explain to you why the approval of this project is so important to the church. The development site occupies the entire north frontage of Atlantic Avenue between Clinton and Vanderbilt Avenues. The site is immediately east of 470 Vanderbilt, which is in a C6 3A district having an R9 FAR equivalent, and diagonally across the intersection of Vanderbilt and Atlantic from the east end of Pacific Park. The site is currently occupied by a non-conforming gas station and car wash, and a once popular bar, I understand, is about to close. The site is down the street from the Church of St. Luke and St. Matthew, one of the most architecturally significant 19th century church structures in Brooklyn. Today, the site lies in an R7A district mapped 100 feet from Atlantic Avenue and 80 feet from Vanderbilt Avenue. The Atlantic Avenue portion is in a C2-4 commercial overlay. Within this district, which is in an inclusionary designated area, a maximum permitted FAR of 4.6 is allowed if low-income housing is provided in 20% of the residential floor area. The proposed development would contain a total of approximately 235,000 square feet of floor area, of which approximately 35,000 square feet would be commercial, and the rest residential. 3 primary actions are before you. The first major action would rezone the development site to an R9 district with a C25 overlay. The rezoning would increase the maximum FAR permitted on the development site to 8, allowing the construction of an additional 3.4 FAR residential floor area and the application of mandatory inclusionary housing to the residential floor area generated by the upzone development site. This would result in an approximately 20,000 square foot increase in the floor area required to be maintained permanently in affordable housing units, and as proposed, would ensure that the affordable housing is entirely on site. 30% of the residential floor area generated solely by the footprint of the development site, or approximately 40,000 square feet, would be inclusionary floor area provided under the MIH program. Overall, 20% of the total residential floor area developed on site would be affordable under MIH. The buildings would have approximately 284 dwelling units, of which at least 57 are anticipated to be affordable under the MIH program. An additional 28 units would be affordable under the Affordable New York program, for a total of 85 affordable units. It's a little hard to see in that chart, but the chart breaks down the affordable housing unit proposed. The second major action is a special permit pursuant to Section 74-711. The special permit would allow for the modification of several bulk regulations, but the most important are the regulations that do not permit floor area to be transferred across zoning district lines from districts that have a different base maximum FAR for a specific use. In this case, the special permit will allow all the unused floor area from the church's lot, approximately 60,000 square feet, to be transferred from the R7A and the R6A districts in which the church is located to the rezoned development site in the R9 C25 district. Also, mostly due to the irregular shape of the site, to accommodate the buildings proposed, the applicant seeks a number of other bulk modifications, which are enumerated in this slide. Lastly, the applicant is seeking relief from the obligation to provide on-site residential parking through a special permit under Section 74-533. This special permit was created as part of ZQA and applies in transit zones in which the site is located. In exchange for allowing the floor area transfer, the developer will fund a comprehensive restoration of the church. Morris Adjemi will tell you a little more about that and then introduce the new buildings to you. Morris?
Thank you, Dan. Good afternoon. I'm Morris Adjemi, the architect for the project, and I'll take you through. There are a number of slides. I'll try to be brief, but if you have any more questions, obviously I'd be happy to answer those. This is a shot of the proposed building looking north on Vanderbilt. We've paid particular attention to the massing of the building. It consists of a tower on base with the mass on the corner of Vanderbilt and Atlantic. The tower rises to 312 feet, which is slightly shorter than the proposed B10 building in Pacific Park, which you see shown in white there. This is the site looking southeast. You can see the church here, which I'll show you in a little bit more detail, the extensive restoration that we are proposing to perform there, and the site is shown in orange here at the corner, or spanning between Clinton and Vanderbilt on Atlantic. This is a shot of the church as it looks now, and in this image it looks great, but when you look closely you can see that it is in disrepair and is in need of a lot of attention. And I can show you just briefly some of that. But stone is spalling, roof is damaged, the belfry is in the worst shape. It is structurally sound, but water is coming in and it needs a lot of attention. So here's a drawing showing the extensive restoration work, which includes cleaning, repointing, replacing stone, patching stone. There are a number of different types of stone there, and those are all indicated there. Some protection for the stained glass windows, and then roofing and really rebuilding the top of the belfry. You can see here, sort of this is indicative of a lot of what's happened to the stone, spalling, falling off, poor patches were made over time. We're taking all those out and restoring the brownstone, limestone, and other stones throughout. You can see here some of those will be replaced. We've gone through the landmarks and they've approved the proposed restoration work. Again, the belfry really is where you see the most damage. I mean, it's throughout, but pieces of stone are falling off, there's water coming through, wood is rotting, et cetera, et cetera. And some more shots of that. There's been a lot of damage on the rear of the building because of poor drainage. All of that's proposed to be corrected. I'm just sort of buzz through this so we can get to the new building. And you can see where water's infiltrated the structure itself. So again, we're looking at the proposed site here. The building rises to 312. We are proposing a lower base height and putting the mass on the corner, which is adjacent to the Pacific Park. We want to really sort of respect the height of the lower scale buildings on Clinton, and we're doing two things where we're sort of sculpting the building, both the tower and the base, so that we can increase the visibility of those buildings on Clinton, and particularly the church and the belfry. These are two historic photos showing the prominence of the belfry, and that was one of the considerations that we had when we were doing the design, which you'll see how we've done that. This is the existing condition with showing the proposed building on the corner there, not our proposed building, but on Pacific Park, and our site is here. Notice the prominence of the belfry there. This is what an as-of-right scheme would be. The street wall would rise to 75 feet, and the overall height would be 95, which completely blocks that view, and we thought that that was something that was important, also something that Landmarks felt was important as well. And here's a proposed building showing a slightly lower base. The as-of-right base is 75, and we're proposing 52 feet here with a green and blue roof there, and green roof as well on the top. And then I'll show you a little bit more on the architecture as we look at these slides. And here's a looking northwest on Atlantic and looking down Clinton here. You see the church. We're proposing to sculpt back the Clinton facade as well as the base of the tower, which enables us to maintain the views of the belfry. And we're using concrete with a mix of colors that you find in the church, so that it sort of has some harmony with the church, but not copying it directly. And the architecture is attenuated both as you go up the building and across, which you can see in these shots.
Great timing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions from the commission? Vice Chair Knuckles.
Aside from the church, are the transfer sites, are they all owned by the church, or are those individual property owners?
Those individual property owners.
Those are individual property owners, and they're going to be part of the proposed merged zoning lot in order to form the necessary chain of contiguity to the church, because the church does not abut the development site. There's a few thousand square feet here or there of development rights that those parcels have that will also be transferred, but the main transfer is the 60,000 square feet from the church.
Commissioner Deleuze.
Well, besides finding out what's going to happen with the barbecue place, which everybody in the neighborhood loves.
Hot word.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you could go back to your slide that shows the affordable housing mix, and if you could talk through that, and also I think address some of the concerns that came up in both the community board and borough president recommendation. That would be helpful.
Sure. So this chart shows that there will be 57 units affordable under MIH. And the way we arrive at 57 units is by applying MIH option 2 to the upzoned residential floor area, 30% required to be affordable at an average of 80% AMI. And that's what the ULURP application proposes. We've heard the borough president request 30% at an average of 60% AMI, so hence replicating the level under MIH option 1. And we've also heard the recommendation from the community board in that vein. We're in active discussions with the council member. We're looking at various blends of AMI levels that that could lower the average AMI below 80%, but we're still looking at that. And we look forward to coming to an agreement with the council member that makes economic sense for the project and also meets her objectives and that of the community.
If I might, that outline of affordable units meets the MIH guidelines for distribution of units?
Yes, it does. 65% of the floors.
Okay, I guess I've seen approaches that are more distributed.
Other questions? Commissioner Ortiz and then Commissioner Lemon.
Yesterday, at review session, I mentioned, transportation accessibility and the issue of bike parking. I know you are meeting your requirements. Yes. You are also asking for a waiver. We know how critical storage is, bike storage is to ensuring people actually use their bikes. And is there any space available or could be distributed, to allow for more bike storage? Is there any consideration?
Yes, we heard your comment and we discussed with the developer, and he's willing to provide additional bike storage spaces in addition to what's required under zoning. So yes.
Okay. Have they come to any conclusion? Are they reaching for any particular goal on that?
Not yet, but it's something that we'll look at further, and it's something that he's willing to do because we recognize that. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Levin?
Thank you. It wasn't really my question, but I'd like to follow up or join in with Commissioner Deleuze's comment about distribution. That looks like the least possible degree of distribution throughout. This is supposed to be inclusionary units, and they don't look very included in the building. So I hope that you can find a way through the rest of this process to make this truly an inclusionary building. But I guess it does relate to my main question, which is about how the two buildings relate to each other. Yes. Certainly from the exterior, it looks like it's going to be one project, one building. I understand for legal reasons it's being constructed as two, but how is that going to be experienced on the inside of the building?
Yes. So, and I think I should show, that's page 31, I think, yeah. So to be clear, there will be no pour door. Both buildings can be accessed through both lobbies. Let's see if I can use this. So you see the lobby for the building fronting Vanderbilt, and there's the lobby for the building fronting Clinton. And also the buildings will be connected to one another on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors. And to sort of go to the point on distribution, pursuant to the ZELDA, because the ZELDA needs to be entered into to allow for the allocation of floor area, the shorter building can have no more than 30% affordable units. And that shorter building it's only going to have 20 units total, so about 6 would be affordable, and the rest will be distributed, as you saw on that chart, in the taller building. So this isn't a situation where a disproportionate share of the affordable is being crammed into a shorter building. Does that answer your question?
Yes, but the buildings will be connected at the 3rd floor? So I mean, I guess if you live in...
3rd, 4th, and 5th. 5th being the roof of the shorter building. So there'll be access between the two buildings. And the 3rd and 4th floors are the residential floors of the shorter building.
They're on top of the commercial?
Yes.
Okay.
Which would be on the 1st and 2nd floors. Yeah.
All right. Okay, and then I just have a question of neighborhood curiosity. The building at 532 Clinton, which is the one at the top right of this scheme that's sort of set back from the street. It's really quite an interesting historic property. It looks like it's a lot older than its surroundings. Do you have any idea what the fate of that building is?
I understand, in fact, that plans have been filed with DOB to... It's actually been demolished. Okay,
It's been demolished? Very recently.
There was a fire and then it was demolished.
Whoa, okay, so
And that
much
was
for
quite
that.
recently, right?
Yeah, I was just by there within the last month.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Other questions? Commissioner Edie.
Thank you. Just a quick question. The architecture team for the new building, are they also going to be the same team involved with the restoration of the church?
We are involved, but we're working with Judith Saltzman at Lee Saltzman. And
okay.
We've been working together with them. We work with them on other projects.
Got it. Okay,
they've been
great.
leading that effort.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, they're doing a great job.
Other questions for the applicants? Commissioner De La Hoz.
So actually, just kind of following up on the restoration piece first, having lived in the area and been in that church, in particular around, they were a base of operation during Sandy in terms of helping to respond to other communities. So I know it's a beloved structure and area. I'm just wondering, what is the anticipated timing of the restoration relative to the timing of the construction of the new building? If that could be shared a bit more, that'd be helpful. And I do appreciate the sensitivity around the view to the belfry.
Jeff Gershon is here, and he can talk to that a little bit. The idea is that the restoration work would start immediately and have to be completed prior to getting the CO for the building. So.
That answers my question.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you. We have a speaker in opposition, Noselin Ogier. Noselin Ogier.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ogier. Is that person here? Okay. We will then go to speakers in favor, starting with Liddell York, who will be followed by the Reverend Andrew Durbidge, and then Al Wiltshire.
Hey, close enough, or?
Yeah, just state your name, sir, for the record.
Hey, my name is Liddell York. It's my first time doing this, so don't be too worried if I kind of mess up anything. But yeah,
it's an audition. Take it easy.
I got you. I got you. I want to blow it, you know.
Okay.
Nah, but I was supposed to say good morning, but the time flew, so I guess it's good afternoon now. But thanks for not leaving. I see everybody done left, so like y'all still stayed, so I appreciate it. Thanks. I appreciate it. I feel special now. Yeah, but I'm in agreement with this with the rezoning at 809 Atlantic. I'm with the 32BJ union. I'm a security officer. I've been with the union for 2 years, and it's been a pleasurable experience so far. They did a lot for me, and I just want to do back for them, you know, because it's a team effort. And on behalf of my union, we want to share our support for the proposed rezoning and development of 809 Atlantic Avenue, which is being pursued by affiliates of Hope Street Capital. As you know, 32BJ represents over 80,000 property service workers in New York City. Our members clean and maintain these buildings like the two proposed. We believe that developers should commit to provide prevailing wage building service jobs in order to build a more equitable economy in New York City. We are happy to report that Hope Street Capital has made this commitment, and we look forward to working with them. We believe that the developers' commitment to good jobs, building restoration in a home for a local theater company provides benefits to the community, and we are happy to support this project. For these reasons, we respectfully urge that you approve this project. So,
thank you, Mr. York. Well said.
Thank you.
Questions for Mr. York? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Next time, try to ask me questions. You know, I want to get good at this.
Reverend Durbidge?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Andrew Durbidge, the priest in charge of St. Luke and St. Matthew's Church. This is an extraordinarily important project for the church, both locally and across our diocese. Our diocese covers Brooklyn and Queens and Nassau and Suffolk counties, and we have over 130 parishes across those 4 counties. Put my other hat on, I'm also the real estate manager for the diocese, so this is my bread and butter stuff. it is the legacy that was left to us by our forebears, and for communities where we have all these historic churches is significant, but it also means that we now have this ongoing issue with trying to maintain these buildings. Congregations are shrinking in all denominations, and it's really above the means of any congregation, to be able to repair these buildings. We're thankful for the part of the zoning code that allows us to do this, or to partner with people like Jeff, who have been very supportive of trying to make this happen. In the consideration of this project, just one thing I wanted to emphasise was that we were very concerned about the quantum of air rights that was being sold, and also the quantum of the revenue that we were getting for that. Because of the covenant that we have to enter into with Landmarks to maintain this building in a first-class condition for however long the world's Brooklyn survives, it is a huge onerous position for us to take. And so we were very concerned that if the full amount of the rezoning didn't go through, that we may not be able to enter into this arrangement. It would overly burden this congregation, who would be the party to the arrangement. So we're encouraging the Commission to support the project and to allow its full amount of floor space to be transferred. Half of the income that we get is dedicated to the restoration of the facade of the building, and that has been agreed to by Jeff. And Jeff has also agreed to cap that expenditure on so the scope of work that was agreed to by Landmarks, he will cap that, so we won't be exposed for any of the overruns which run high on these sorts of projects. The other half of the income, most of it will go to an endowment for the long-term maintenance of the building, and we will probably take out $750,000 to $1 million to do an internal renovation to make the building accessible. If any of you have been in that building, and Commissioner, you said you had, the bathrooms, the kitchen is from the 40s. It is very poor and it is not accessible. So we need to make that change to make the building better used by the community. And certainly I was there through Sandy, when Occupy Sandy used it as a significant warehouse and distribution centre for all of the Rockaways. It was an incredible operation if you've ever seen it. There were 60,000 volunteers were trained over a period of months. And it only ceased because of the fire that someone set on Christmas Eve.
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, do you have an approximate idea of what the amount of the scope of work, what it will encompass, dollar-wise?
Dollar-wise, I'm sure I can. It's a $9 million value, and the value was set after an appraiser did an appraisal of the local area. This site's the only receiving site on the block, and so that's an agreement was made.
Thank you. Questions for Reverend Durbridge?
I just appreciate you being here to share that, and I think it's, I don't know if it was good negotiating or just generosity on their end about capping things, but that is certainly, it truly is an important part of the process. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Al Wiltshire.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm Al Wiltshire. I'm the senior warden. The senior warden is the chairman of the, not chairman of the vestry, member of the vestry. The vestry is the governing body of the Episcopal Church. In answer to your question, Commissioner, I've been with this project since the beginning, and it took a lot of negotiation. But I must say, this developer has been really good to us and trying to help keep our church going. I don't want to be redundant in what the Reverend has said, but this is very important to our church. I've been a member of the church for almost 25 years now, and it's falling apart. It's plain and simple. We need bathrooms, we need wiring, we need plumbing. His heating system is a wreck, and this gives us an opportunity to repair our church and make it whole. Our congregation is, I'm 81, and I'd venture to say most of my fellow parishioners may not be in their 80s, but they're certainly in their 60s and their 70s. We're hoping to recruit younger members to keep our church going. But we need this, and the fact that the developer is putting forward $50 million, excuse me, into the restoration of the outside of the building. We have to put X amount of dollars in escrow to make sure there's money to maintain it, and then we intend to take X amount of dollars to repair the bathrooms, rewire the church, work on the plumbing system. So it's a lot of work. So we need your support on this. We need all of the air rights to be allowed to be transferred so we can get as much money out of this, so we can keep our church going for another 80-plus years, so my children, grandchildren, et cetera, can have a church to go to. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Wiltshire? Thank you, sir. Deidre Carson.
Hi, Deirdre Carson from Greenberg Traurig. I'm batting cleanup, but it doesn't sound like it's necessary. So if you have any other questions that you didn't ask the team earlier, I can try to address them or call Dan back because he really knows.
Questions for Ms. Carson?
Well, we have Commissioner Delauze's question about what's happening to Yardbird. And I think that's actually pretty important to a lot of DCP staffers as well who live in the neighborhood and have enjoyed that.
You know, my client would tell you that he tried to talk to them about coming back, but I understand the guy who runs it is retiring. Is that the deal?
Hi, Jeff Gershon. Yeah, they closed, I believe, on December 18th. We did offer him the opportunity to come back, and he declined. I think he's getting out of the business, and I heard something about moving to Oregon. I don't know if that's accurate.
Who would want to do that?
Okay.
There's nothing else.
Any more questions about Yardbird or other pertinent land use issues from Ms. Carson?
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, are there any other speakers on this item?
No, Vice Chair.
Are there any other matters to come before the commission today?
No, Vice Chair.
Therefore, the hearing and the meeting is closed. Thank you. How you doing?